This LOS is describe functions and objectives of the international organizations that facilitate trade, including the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Trade Organization. Trade organizations. As a result of countries building barriers to international trade in the 1930s and 1940s, international trade fell, along with the standard of living in many countries. International trade organizations were created to encourage international trade and develop. So first we'll look here at the International Monetary Fund and some of its objectives. First objective is ensuring stability of the exchange rate system, and another objective of ensuring stability of the international payment system. So again, when you see a list here of 3 organizations and a number of objectives or characteristics, you know that's very good material for multiple choice questions, okay? So if we look next at the World Bank Group, what are the objectives? Is fighting poverty in developing countries and encouraging environmentally sound economic growth. So you can see IMF is stability of payments, World Bank is fighting poverty and environmentally sound economic growth, and the World Trade Organization, as you would expect, is the objective is providing legal and institutional foundation for the multinational trading system. Trade organizations. So first we'll look at the International Monetary Fund. The purpose of the International Monetary Fund is to stabilize exchange rates and the system of international payments. So a couple of bullet points. It provides a forum for cooperation, facilitates growth in international trade, promotes employment, economic growth, and poverty reduction, and it lends foreign currencies to member countries that are experiencing trade deficits. So you often hear about IMF loans, okay? In response to the global financial crisis, the IMF has expanded its scope to include monitoring of economies, risk, capital market developments, and financial sector vulnerabilities. Now we'll look at the World Bank Group. The objective of the World Bank is to help developing countries fight poverty and enhance environmentally sound economic growth. So it's important we understand these objectives. Economic development in developing nations requires strong governmental system, developed legal and judicial systems, individual and property rights, supportive contracts, financial systems robust enough for all sizes of business, and willingness and ability to fight corruption. So those are some key points there as well with regards to economic development in developing nations, some of the required foundations. So the World Bank Group provides funds as well as technical and financial expertise to developing nations. It helps to create the basic economic infrastructure for a developing nation, infrastructure foundations. Non-profit affiliates, you've got the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD, and also the International Development Association. Now we'll look at the World Trade Organization. The purpose of the World Trade Organization is to provide the legal and institutional foundation for the multinational trading system. It addresses barriers to trade and subsidies that inhibit trade. The WTO implements and administers individual agreements, which encourages trade by providing a platform for negotiations and settling of disputes. So we'll do a couple of quick practice questions. Which of the following international trade organizations regulates cross-border exchange among nations on a global scale? A, the World Bank Group, B, the World Trade Organization, or C, the International Monetary Fund? B is correct. The World Trade Organization provides the legal and institutional foundation of the multinational trading system and is the only international organization that regulates cross-border trade relations among nations on a global scale. The WTO's mission is to foster free trade by providing a major institutional and regulatory framework of global trade rules. Without such global trading rules, today's global transnational corporations would be hard to conceive. So I think these questions are fairly easy. Again, you have to memorize the organizations and what their objectives are. And a question like this should then be fairly simple. Yeah, these questions are really too easy, having just reviewed the materials. But you can see when you get to the exam, if you haven't reviewed something in a long time, sometimes it's hard to remember these factoids. But this should be easy. Which of the following international trade organizations has a mission to help developing countries fight poverty and enhance environmentally sound economic growth? A, the World Bank, B, the World Trade Organization, or C, the International Monetary Fund? Okay, that was too easy. A is correct. The World Bank's mission is to help developing countries fight poverty and enhance environmentally sound economic growth. Again, these are just the objectives. So this question is really easy. It's just asking you the objectives or mission of the organization, and you just have to memorize it. The World Bank helps to create the basic economic infrastructure essential for creation and maintenance of domestic financial markets and a well-functioning financial industry in developing countries. So again, read these second sentences because the question could be changed a little bit to incorporate, which of the following international trade organization has the objective of maintenance of domestic financial markets and a well-functioning financial industry? Well, then the question would be similar but a little bit different. And again, that would fall under the World Bank, not the WTO, or although the IMF, there could be a little bit of crossover there. Another quick one. Which of the following organizations helps to keep global systemic risk under control by preventing contagion in scenarios such as the 2010 Greek sovereign debt crisis? A, the World Bank, B, the World Trade Organization, or C, the International Monetary Fund? I know, too easy, right? C is correct. From an investment perspective, the IMF helps to keep country-specific market risk and global systemic risk under control. The Greek sovereign debt crisis in 2010, which threatened to destabilize the entire European banking system, is a recent example. The IMF's mission is to ensure the stability of the international monetary system, the system of exchange rates, and international payments, which enables countries to buy goods and services from each other. And one last practice question to finish this LOS. Which of the following international trade bodies was the only multilateral body governing trade from 1948 to 1995? A, the World Trade Organization, B, the International Trade Organization, or C, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, GATT? Okay, I like this question because you can see we've been talking about the IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization. And indeed, if you go to the summary for the chapter, it's only mentioning the IMF, the World Bank, and the WTO, and those were the organizations listed in the LOS. But now there's a question on International Trade Organization and the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So it shows you the importance of going back and combing through the reading and picking up some of the smaller points. And that's why I like this question, because C is correct. The GATT was the only multilateral body governing international trade from 1948 to 1995. It operated for almost half a century as a quasi-institutionalized provisional system of multilateral treaties and included several rounds of negotiations. Now, you might not get a question on the exam with regards to the GATT, but again, my point here to illustrate is you've got an LOS that's talking about the IMF, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization. There is a reading. There's a summary where only the IMF, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization is listed, but then there's a question of some finer details that are buried in the text. So it's always important to go back and comb through the reading as part of the process. I usually do that at the end of having done most of my preparations and practice questions, just to pick up the smaller nuggets of gold that are buried in the reading. Okay, just a quick screenshot of the ebook. So you can see I've highlighted here in blue that in the summary to the reading, they're talking about the IMF's mission. The World Bank helps to create economic infrastructure, and the WTO, World Trade Organization, mission is to foster free trade. And as I've always said, if you had all the chapter reading summaries memorized, you probably pass the exam, in fact, with being able to do a few calculations. The summaries to the readings are so important, okay? And, of course, the practice problems. But we could see from that last question, it was asking something about the GATT. So where did we find that? Okay, so I just paused the video and I scrolled back up to the beginning of the reading for trade organizations, highlighted in blue. You see there's a paragraph graph there that it wasn't in the LOS for the reading, but it talks about a third institution, the International Trade Organization, and it was created to handle the trade side of international economic cooperation, etc. And then you can see later on, it does mention the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and a little bit about the GATT. And then indeed we did have a practice question that was referencing the GATT and the ITO. So again, my point was just to point out that it's important to comb through the readings as part of the process, okay? Relying only on summary notes or review notes definitely there is obviously not replicating all the material, and you need to go back and pick up a few of the finer points just to be better safe than sorry, okay? And that's the last for this LOS. Thank you.